This is your favourite station.
Pulse88.co.uk.
LDNRBS. On a weekend, in fact, we have another special guest in the building, Omega Axsal. Let's give him a clap over here, guys. Most definitely another guest in the building.
Peace and more powers, gang. What's good?
Most definitely. You're an activist. For anybody that doesn't know you, which they should, let's be honest. Tell us about yourself.
Well, first and foremost, I'm humble enough to know that not everybody needs to know me about right now. If you're interested in Africa, then you should know about me right now. So I teach people about the legacy of African history and just how glorious and excellent we are as Black African, Caribbean, melanated people here living in the West. So a lot of the work that I do is centered around empowering people that look like us, talk like us, and part of the culture like us. So interestingly, you mentioned mental health awareness week. You know, that's something which I've been working very closely on with some people that I work with, because mental health in the Black community is something that's been forgotten about. It's like we don't have minds and we don't have issues and we don't have problems. So yeah man, focus on us.
So
interesting.
When you're talking about mental health and stuff, we were talking off air about Kanye earlier. Now, what is your thoughts on
the topic of the conversation these days?
What is your thoughts of Kanye, and do you think
and his representation of what you were just speaking about too?
Oh wow. So first and foremost, I mean, Kanye's openly come out and said that he has mental health issues. I think even now with his new album, I swear it says that he has bipolar on the front cover, right? So for me, albeit I will never allow people to rationalize straight up ignorance with a condition.
Right.
I believe that he needs help. You know, he's in the sunken place. You know, we all make jokes about it. At the end of the day, he's still our brother, regardless of what he said and how ignorant. Like I said, we went in on this off air. What he said was disrespectful. However, now we know he's in this bad place.
Yeah.
I'm still 50-50 as to whether we, loosen the slack on this, because he's in a position where he gets to influence mass society.
Most definitely.
And me being in the situation where that I am teaching people, I now have waves of people coming to me saying, well, Axsal, slavery was a choice. You know, people...
I mean, the rhetoric, I always say the rhetoric that he used was definitely dangerous, but I will say, in my own opinion, we're not going to get into my opinion because we're going to keep on going, like this is my interview, but I definitely think that man is a genius, and I definitely think that there's a few things that he's done that's been misguided, but that's just my take. Let's get back to Omega though.
Real quick though, just before we pass off this one, I mean, nobody who can consider themselves a genius can say that slavery was a choice, even when you then try to rationalize that by it was a mental enslavement, because again, as a genius, you would know that African people were rebelling in the Western Hemisphere from the start. Yeah, burning ships, they were dashing themselves overboard. So slavery wasn't no choice. It was something that they had to make a decision. The only thing I would say, I would move on from this after, but the only thing I would say is the word context. But then we'll move on. That's the only word I'm going to say. Context. I'm happy to move on because I believe that these aren't important subjects. Definitely. Pertinent subjects for the community. So I'm happy to move on. 100. But mental health, I think he's just a perfect example of how Black African people have just been forgotten by mental health institutes, really and truly.
Let's get into your story. Let's get into the fact that you've got a big following. That's a fact. You've got a lot of people that definitely want to see what you're doing and follow you. Tell me about your journey and where it started and where your influences come from.
So I'm mixed race and I'm from a majority white environment and neighborhood. So I grew up very conscious of myself and very conscious of how I was treated. But like many Black African, Caribbean, mixed people, it got pushed down. It just got suppressed, and I didn't realize kind of what I've gone through until I got older. And I have a goddaughter. She was 6 at the time. She walked in from school and she was crying. She had tears down her face, and I was like, Miles, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, do I need to go and beat somebody up? And she's just like, I'm at school and my hair is like, it doesn't look like anybody else's, like it's kinky. And at this point, all of these emotions, all of these memories kind of just flooded back, and it reminded me of how I felt, how isolated and how alienated I felt, and I had nothing to say to her. And from that point, I just said, you know what, I'm never going to be in this position again. I'm going to be able to provide you with information, provide you with something to feel better about yourself, and I ain't stopped since then.
So what do you can you speak some knowledge about the ancestors? as well.
So first and foremost, people say you are your ancestors, and a lot of people say, well, that's spooky, that's pseudo, that doesn't make sense. The reality of the matter is that's a scientific statement. All of us in this room here right now, we're built of 50% of both of our parents, who are also built of 50% of both of their parents. And you can keep going back as far back as you can care to stretch your mind. You are literally built of the best bits of all of these people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were to care to cast your mind back just 10 generations, which is 300 years, you are built up ancestrally of 4,096 people. You're carrying all of those best genes, all of these genes which survived all of these different kind of wars, all of the schisms and agendas against black people, and you're still, here today, living, live and kicking. So that to me, I think, is massively important for people to understand that you are the continuation of the legacy that the ancestors, the people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, all of these people there, we're the continuation of what they did. But I think that the way that society is set up, pushing our attention to rap beef, beef across the, on the other side of the world, opposed to what's going on our doorstep, we're not looking at our community nowadays, and that's been forgotten, I think.
In a definitely a time period where I think a lot of people are kind of sensitive about race issues all the time. Doing what you do, how much? How can I say? How much?
A lot.
Okay, you know what I'm trying to say.
Today on the tube, today I was laughing at comments that I'm receiving about a factually educational post about Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of America, how skeletons of over 10 or 12 people have been found, and most of them were kids, and he was experimenting on them.
Yeah.
And all I've done is post about this and tell people about this, and I'm a spear-chucking Neanderthal, which is a contradiction in its own right, because that don't make sense.
That happened on the train today?
That happened on the train today. And I'm laughing like every day though. But the fact of the matter is, educated people or people who come into this kind of field of information understand that history is political. History is political because whenever you question the power structure or the power dynamic which is at play, you question that privilege which comes with that power dynamic, which is why a lot of non-African people are very quick to jump out and try to suppress people who try to elevate black people, because it's like, wow, if black people come out from underneath this rock, that means we're on a level playing field. And we already now know, after being only, say, 50, 75 years in the ability and freedom to be able to read and write, look at us now. Like, I want to say this like in like an aggressive manner, but we're taking over. Look at sports. There is not a single sport that we cannot excel at. They were like, we'll make golf. That's not something that African people want to go do. Tiger Woods come through and killed it. Hockey, ice hockey, boom. They're killing it. So
I want to ask this question. This is a Tyrone question here. Now, I can't say I disagree with anything you said thus far. Now, I want to ask you, how do you feel about non-African and Caribbean people in general?
So I have one thing about me is I like to be very real about things. I'll never blow things up and things like this. I understand that not every brother is a brother. Right. Not every European is racist. I do a lot of work with one of my friends, Shaka. He does fantastic work.
You're gonna drop Shaka Bar's name as if we don't. Everybody doesn't know who Shaka Bar's is.
Know me.
Everybody knows who Shaka Bar's is for sure.
He's my close friend, so I never really say this to him directly. But he's a big inspiration to me. Like, the work that he does is
a lot of people.
Amazing. But with the work that we're doing, I see a lot of non-African people interested in the progression of the continent of Africa, more so than I'm seeing in sometimes, not to throw my people under the bus, but I'm seeing them show more interest sometimes than my brothers and sisters, and that that throws up a bit of a moral confrontation for me sometimes. Right. But then I get back to my understanding side of things, where I know that as black people, we've been conditioned to disassociate with the continent. And the reason for that is, for as long as our back is turned on Africa, non-African people can continue to go into Africa, extort the resources, extort the people. For example, in the West at the moment, we're talking about how all of these children are going missing to potentially sex trafficking and organ harvesting and all of these things. First of all, it's not a new problem. That's a problem which has been brought over, that they started in Africa. Right. Because not many people know that melanin is the most expensive substance on the planet. It's more expensive than gold. It makes your organs more valuable than any other organs. So, but these are big businesses, and for as long as we're not concerned about them, people are going to continue to extort the continent and make us not want to look at it even more. saddening, really.
Interesting.
So how would people get more involved with going over there and helping with buildings and setting up schools and stuff? Because a lot of these, another thing I was going to touch upon is the charity organizations, which they're sort of like they're not really.
I mean, I fully agree with you there. I think the first question that you asked is how do people get involved? I think before people look to get involved with projects and want to be the savior, go to Africa. Understand that the people that you're going to see are very much like people that we see here. Again, not to throw you under the bus, but we were speaking about Egypt. You was like, I heard that it was a little bit mad there. Propaganda at the end of the day. They'll talk about how Africa's all unsafe and there's all this madness going on, but where do you think Europeans are retiring to? Yeah, I went to South Africa in January. All I could see was everywhere Europeans, all up in the beautiful land. So go. We've got
a South African in the building right now too, as you say that.
South Africa's beautiful. Some of the most beautiful people that I've ever met. But the second thing is start in your community. I mean, I know I'm saying because I'm working abroad and stuff like this, but start in your community. You have to be able to have the support of the people that you know around you to be able to go abroad and say, "Aight, gang, we're going to build a school here."
Definitely.
Ain't got nobody on your social media, nobody in your networks. Who's going to help you do this?
100%.
You're trying to pie in the sky. In regards to information and how you can start to kind of like re-Africanize yourself, there are so many kind of sources that you can look at. Like we have access to the internet these days. Like I said, we've only been reading and writing for 50 years. Now there's people out here traveling the world, making these documentaries, making these books that we can read, and we're just not taking advantage of it.
What books would you say is a good book to read right now?
I mean,
what have you been reading? What's the last book that you've read?
I was trying to do some plugging, man.
Go for it.
Before I plug my own stuff, so I read a fantastic book. It was called The Stars of Deep Beginnings, written by somebody called Charles Finch. It's completely rewritten my understanding of ancient Egypt, and I've been studying Egypt for like 6-7 years now. And for me to have now come across this book and it's telling me a different understanding of the purpose of the pyramids. We all think that pyramids are tombs and things like this. Turns out that African people were charting the stars for hundreds of thousands of years and encoding that information into the building of their tombs and temples and their pyramids. That is an advanced level of understanding science and wisdom that we today still cannot fathom. Like I say to my kids in the sessions that I work with, can you go outside and poke a stick in the sky and make it align with the moon? They're like, I haven't got a clue how to start with that. And that's us today. But in regards to books that I have to plug for myself is one of the great Jamaican scholars of all time, his name was Joel Augustus Rogers. He put out a book called 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro 84 years ago. And I read the book and I was looking around my social circles and I was realizing that the information that he was kicking, nobody knew. So then I decided to put out a new version of the 100 facts, relative to today's age. So one of the facts in there, fact 88, is one of my favorite facts. You've all seen Black Panther, right?
Oh, of course.
You all know about Shuri,
Beautiful
right?
fan.
The most intelligent woman in the Marvel universe. Well, she represents black women of today, okay? Because the social media hashtag that we've all been using for the last kind of 18 months, Black Girl Magic, has been studied by scientists and statisticians, and they've quantified it. They now know that black women are the most influential people, the most influential group on the planet when it comes to music, food, entertainment, what we're wearing. So if little sisters knew this in schools, they're not going to be compromising themselves and kind of selling themselves short, allowing themselves to be violated by boys. And secondly, again, with the boys being empowered, they're not in a position to be violating the sisters because they know they got to protect them.
One video that also is funny, you're talking about Egypt, because there's one video that went kind of viral with you and Shaka Bars, and you're talking to a guy who wanted his best to tell you that Egyptians weren't Africans, and he was talking about he was legit. You need to watch this video. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, but it's Shaka Bars and Omega over here, and you could tell the story.
Just said Egypt were Africa. I don't know.
You see, he was pretty much saying
the sad and crazy, scary thing about it is this person works in the Met Museum, so he's a person. So people will be going to him to ask him for information. Fact of the matter is, people, the argument of who was in ancient Egypt, or as they would have called it, Kemet, which stands for the Black Country, by the way. I'm from the West Midlands, which is also called the Black Country. They call it Black Country because black people there.
Right.
So if an ancient town's called themselves Kemet, who do you think's there? This argument was something which was settled by a Senegalese scholar named Cheikh Anta Diop 40 years ago at a big international conference called UNESCO. He developed a test to test melanin in mummies, basically, and he proved that they were black African people. But because we live in this age of information today, which is a blessing and a curse, because we have access to all of this information, but also we become shrouded in information. People don't know what to take in, so information becomes lost to time. And now sometimes I'll speak to people and I'll sound like crazy, because unfortunately information doesn't filter down. And just looping back round to a problem within the black community specifically, there are people like me. In fact, there are you know about Akala, of course. Another one of my inspirations. Amazing person. He, I believe, is a paradigm breaker, because he's as intellectual as any professor that you will find in any university.
Agreed.
But he's relatable.
Yeah.
And that's what scholars have never been. That's why people don't connect. That's why people don't know that there's cures to cancer, because nobody reads medical journals. Because the information is not relatable. So we have to now make information cool again. You say, gangster, man. Knowledge is gangster. That's
knowledge is gangster.
What's your next projects, or what's your next ventures that you're going on?
So again,
drop an exclusive.
Fortunately, because the experience which I've been able to gain over the last 5 to 6 years, people have been not begging, but they've been begging me to take them to Egypt to be able to go around the site. So I've put on an expedition to Egypt. I've got 2 trips booked in this year, June and July. And I think my career in that perspective is, I want to start taking more and more people back to Africa.
Amazing.
Took people back to South Africa. I got to experience the culture there, and it was one of the most beautiful experiences that I've ever experienced. Like climbing mountains with, I'm gonna say like a random group of people, but it was my brothers and sisters. And man, I bust an OG tier. I can't lie.
Last time I climbed a mountain,
be free to do it, man. Be free to do it.
So hard work. More working with the kids. I think a lot of people are talking about things like knife crime.
Yeah.
But what then? I mean, again, not to throw any more people under the bus, I see a lot of people making noise, coming together, but then there's no
action. Exactly. And say it again, please.
No, again, no, seriously, say it again.
And there's a lot of people making noise, but aren't actually providing long-term solutions. So like, it's not expected of somebody in a local community to start a community centre.
Exactly.
That's a big ask. But you can come together with people in your local community and devise projects amongst you to keep the people active. I've never seen kids play Kirby. I don't see kids play Kirby no more. I see kids play hopscotch and everything there. So we need to.
The youth centres.
Shacks give me this.
This is where we all met as well.
If it wasn't for a youth centre, there will be no LD and RBS. Facts.
Shacks gave me a comment that I love and I'm gonna stick by. Is we need to realise that we are the guardians of the global community. And we have to protect people. So like I said, it's easy for us to look at issues in America about race and things, but we also have our own issues with race on our own doorstep here. And whilst we're fixated on the TV and being distracted to that, we'll never deal with them here. And I think that it's time for people to switch off the television 100%. Come back together.
And if we're going to talk about Britain too, I definitely champion you, because especially at a time where you've got this is minimal, but you've got a time where someone like Raheem Sterling is getting every single second bashed by the media for anything, and I can't help but think, if he was Harry Kane, it wouldn't be happening. No. And I'm going to put my neck out and I say that if he was Harry Kane, it wouldn't be happening. Now, to see someone like yourself and Shaka Bars, Akala right now doing such great things for communities, you lot are a blessing, literally, and you guys need to keep on going.
I think with that as well, I also, and it's an annoying schism that's within the community, but I also have a lot of people who pop up and be like, oh, the only reason you get that type of attention is because you light skin. And I'm like, well, yeah, I get that. That's come through from Jim Crow. That's still prevalent. People, essentially, the saying was, around blacks don't turn you back, essentially. And that type of mentality is still stuck with our media today. So when I see people like Raheem Sterling being terrorized by the media, it's not
keyword terrorized. I love the fact that you use words terrorized by the media, for sure.
We have to also understand that language is massively important. Essentially spelling, you're putting people under a spell. The media is possibly magic, right? Magic is something which I think has been blown out of proportion. To condition people by using words is magic.
100%.
And people are under a spell. Like, they say that, you know, nobody's born into hate. You know, you're conditioned to hate at the end of the day. So then we look at, well, how are people conditioned to hate?
Media.
Education system, media, and things like this. And we're the only ones who can stop it, but we give the power away all the time.
So in the next 5 years, where is Omega going to be, and what is he going to be doing, and what does he hope to see within the people?
So the major project that I'm working on at the moment is actually helping build an eco-village in the Congo. So everybody's talking about Wakanda forever. Everybody needs to be saying Wakongo forever, because in reality, albeit not literally, Wakanda was based on Congo. All of the resources there, the people there. It's an untapped resource which essentially we as black people of the diaspora need to reconnect back to. So we're going to be building this eco-village essentially to provide for the kids there, because they are essentially the victims of Western systems, the destabilization of the continent. So 5 years, I hope, and I in fact I very much believe with the amount of people who are back on board with this, that's going to be built and established. I want to be able to have regular influxes of people going back to Africa. And I also believe that as a London community, we need to establish our own homeschooling institute.
1000%.
Not just a homeschool in a local centre. I mean like a union, like you'd have if you're a taxi driver or you're a doctor or whatever, so that it can be regulated correctly. Because like Carla says in his new book, which I'm kind of just getting into, he talks about the importance of Saturday schools. He says 3 out of every 4 people that he went to Saturday school with are now a massive success. So we need to take advantage of things like that.
1000%. Should we give your socials out to the people so they can definitely follow? And people, believe me, we definitely had a good interview here, man. We definitely did. Omega definitely came through.
I enjoy these conversations because I know, say that your regular audience will be used to hearing things like this, and now they'll be like, oh,
they need to hear it.
They need to.
But if you want to catch more, so I actually do tours of the British Museum in central London. I try to do at least one a month. Because of my Egypt trips, I won't have any for the next couple of weeks, but you can find out more information on my Instagram, which is Omega_Axsal, which is spelled AXSAL, or you can get updates from ancestorswork.com.
Sick. Like I said before, I champion yourself, I champion Akala, and I champion your friend Shaka Bars.
Appreciate it.
Omega, let's give him a clap over here, man.
Thanks for coming.
It's definitely got Bones coming in not too long from that now. LD and RBS on a weekend, people.
88.co.uk.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at Pulse 88 Radio.